Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Today's video does not have the intention of bashing the United Kingdom, okay? I don't intend to offend my British friends and any British subjects, citizens whatsoever. The only thing I'm going to do here is just show the British government's hypocrisy. That's all. And maybe my British friends will be concerned to find out that the government that represents them and leads them is a hypocritical government. Maybe they already know and they do not like to be shown or told that, especially by a foreigner. I understand that, but I don't think that's fair. What do I mean by fair? If you, as a government, point a finger towards someone else doing something bad, but you did that much more to greater extent than the one that you point a finger at right now, I don't think that's fair. And I will point that out. And I think whomever is interested in finding the truth should be joining me in this one. I'm not dispensing justice here. I'm just reading articles coming from various outlets that have their own agenda. I'm aware of that, but facts are facts. The interpretation could be, here, pushed here a little bit, touched here or there, you know what I mean. So I'm going to talk about UK that launched 83 military interventions since 1945. Declassified UK documents, right? This article comes from an Arab news outlet, Al Mayadeen, and it is from January 11th, 2022. Today. So I'm just going to show that since 1945, according to these guys' dates, they will provide dates and they will provide countries and so on, where the UK intervened militarily, I don't think with the declaration of war, and had to send troops to kill someone somewhere, okay, for various interests. Now, the Declassified UK website publishes a report that documents the military interventions of the UK around the world, showing the use of the UK's armed forces much more, and I'm quoting, than is conventionally remembered or believed, end quote. British website Declassified UK published a report by Mark Curtis that documents the UK Armed Forces interventions or threats to use military force, and I'm quoting, much more in the post-war world than is conventionally remembered or believed, end quote. This Declassified UK has documented 83, and I'm quoting, 83 interventions by the UK Armed Forces since 1945 in 47 different countries. I'm assuming those 47 countries were sovereign countries, not, baboon countries, okay? The report said, noting that the most striking of uses of force have been, and I'm quoting, the overt invasions or armed attempts to overthrow governments such as in British Guyana, now Guyana, in 1953, Egypt in 1950s, Iraq in 2003, and Libya in 2011, end quote. The document sheds the light on the, and I'm quoting, brutal colonial counter-insurgency wars of the 1950s and 1960s in Kenya, Malaya, Aden, and Cyprus, which involved a, and I'm quoting, widespread use of torture, often in insidious operations to displace large number of people to control the local population. You can ignore this, okay? Just get the numbers in, because that could be, unverified, or it could be exaggerated, or it could be just propaganda or just bashing UK, okay? Let's don't get the interpretations. Let's get at least the names and the name of the countries and the dates. And I'm quoting, in Malaya, between 1948 and 1960, British forces herded hundreds of thousands of people into 45 camps. heavily bombarded rural areas and resorted to extensive propaganda to win the conflict, the report said, adding that, and I'm quoting again, British brutally fighting in Mau Mau forces in Kenya demanding independence from the UK resulted in tens and perhaps hundreds of thousands of deaths, okay, often by starvation in concentration camps. I don't know, I never heard about these concentration camps, so I can't verify if that's true or not. This is what these guys say. Maybe you guys are aware of it, I don't know. Colonial control. This pattern of armed interventions, which was, as per the report, of course, routine during the 19th century empire, was in the post-war period set immediately after Allied forces defeated Japan and Germany in 1945. In the post-war world, Britain's first intervention sought, and I'm quoting, to suppress budding popular movements fighting European imperialism. I disagree with European imperialism because that lumps Europe as a whole, and Bulgaria is part of Europe and it was not a colonial or imperialist country. Serbia was not, Romania was not, Hungary was not, Czech Republic now, Czechoslovakia if you want. These were not. So when they say here colonial power in European, I disagree with that, because it's like saying, you know, if a country in South America did something somewhere else, you lump all the South American countries. No, we have two countries, let's make it two, so you have a plural. Now, it says here that in 1945 and 1946, British forces intervened in Vietnam and Indonesia to restore French and Dutch, respectively, colonial control. I know that one. In Vietnam, the British rearmed defeated Japanese imperial troops to fight pro-independence forces. I know that one. End quote. The deploying force continued over the decades, notably to prop up favored regimes. Armed forces were dispatched to Oman, 1957, I know that one, Nyasaland, now Malawi, 1959, Brunei, 1962, Anguilla, 1969, and Jordan, 1970, to bolster pro-British governments being threatened by independence or popular movements. End quote. In 1964, British forces put down army mutinies in 3 countries in close succession in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, to shore up pro-British governments just after they had become independent, the report added. Albania and Yemen. Let's see what's happening in Albania. Covert wars, and I'm quoting, have been planned by Whitehall officials in numerous instances where their strategy would be unpopular at home or controversial abroad. British governments have, if anything, become less and less transparent about these covert operations over time, end quote, the report revealed. The beginnings after the war were when UK forces aimed, and I'm quoting, to stir up opposition to emerging communist rules in Albania and Ukraine and the Baltic states in the late 1940s. Operations which all failed to prevent these countries coming under communist control, end quote. I know something happens also in Greece as well, among others. Such military operations kept going in the 1950s in Indonesia. And it says here, in Indonesia, in an attempt to promote a rebellion against nationalist President Sukarno. And in the 1960s in Yemen, in a war to bog down the forces of Egypt's leader Gamal Abdel Nasser, in which tens of thousands of people died, end quote, the report said. And I'm quoting again, in the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher's government executed Britain's largest post-war covert operation to date in backing Mujahideen warriors to counter the Soviet occupation in Afghanistan, end quote. It added. The strategy did not just involve providing weapons and training for combat inside Afghanistan, it also involved, and I'm quoting, the sabotage of Moscow's supply lines inside the then Soviet republics of Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, end quote. The covert was of the UK have recently proliferated against in view of the unpopular wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm quoting, in 2011, 2013, Whitehall planners secretly launched at least 4 covert wars involving special forces on the group's ground in Libya, Syria, Somalia, and Mali, end quote. Overt interventions. After Iraq invasion of Kuwait in 1990, and I'm quoting, the UK acted as the US's junior partner in the ferocious bombardment of Iraq the following year that destroyed much of the country's civilian infrastructure, end quote. The two partners' bombing of Iraq lasted for a decade after the Gulf War until the 2003 invasion. The British military has many times been used to counter threats to favor allies from neighboring countries, and I'm quoting, such as the deployment to Kuwait in 1994 to deter a threat from Iraq's Saddam Hussein, and the dispatch of troops in Aqaba in Jordan in 1949. Aqaba. Now, the UK intervened at least 4 times in British Honduras, which became independent as Belize in 1981, in 1948, 1957, 1962, and 1977 to deter Guatemala from its claims over the territory. The Falklands War in 1982, after Argentina invaded the islands, was far from being the first time a Latin American state had claimed territory it saw as a relic of the colonial period, end quote, Curtis wrote. Not included. The report concludes by stressing that the list of interventions is, and I'm quoting, far from exhaustive, and it is unlikely to have found all the British military deployments for combat since 1945. Further, it does not include mercenary operations by British personnel, often backed by Whitehall, or purely intelligence operations to overthrow governments, end quote. The report comes simultaneously with revelations ranging from how the heir to the throne, Prince William, allegedly pushed Harry to the ground in 19... whatever. So that's what it was. This is what Curtis says over there. Probably, I mean, I don't know most of those things, but some of them I heard about it, I read about them, but not in depth. Probably I have a lot of British friends here who know much more about everything that was over there. Probably some of them will be upset about it, some of them will have things to add, some people will say yes or no. I mean, what is else? I don't know. It's yes, no, I don't know. I'm in the I don't know because I don't know most of those things over there. Why did I pick up this article? It's because if you remember, we have Russia being the imperialist, has imperialist tendencies. Some Brits, some high officials claimed about Russia, and I would like to see where is that. I would like to see some, at least the same amount of, you know, I'm not defending Russia. I don't give up about Russia. Okay, just put it this way. It's just that I don't like when you're all, you know, you're ugly and you call someone else ugly. I mean, let me show you a mirror first, and then, you know, that's, it doesn't mean that you should not point out that Russia is doing this or doing that, but it's UK government is doing as if it has like a moral standing, you know, like a higher ground or something, which makes me laugh, makes me definitely laugh. Why? Because I look in the history, and it's I can't remember who that was, who said it. I know who said it. It was Howard Zinn. I think Howard Zinn said it. I think the historian. He said that like everywhere else in the history, the Brits came last, but they took over everything. He said usually it was the Spaniards, or it was the Portuguese, or even the Dutch. Nevertheless, when the Brits came, pushed everybody to the side. Well, I don't blame them. Britannia, Britannia. I'm okay with, you know, I know that Britain was and still is a very civilized country from many points of, value. You can value that. And I know that whenever they went somewhere, they did not just suck dry the country. They also built certain kind of things, brought certain kind of institutions, and they, you know, tried to make it a little bit in its image, good or bad as it is. But I think it's good to build a asphalt road in a country that never seen asphalt. Good or bad, colonialism or not, there it is. Or I think it's good to build a, I don't know, a water dam and have electricity for the same nation that culturally has no idea what the fuck that was. Anyway, just saying these kind of things, okay? So what I'm trying to say, certain things were taken, but certain things were given. And those things were given, some of them were positive, okay? Thank you. The people who want, I don't know, the Kohinoor back, or they want this kind of diamond from there, or they want this kind of diamonds, I would ask for everything you guys have from us back. Us, not me. You know what I mean? Back, and see where they get you. And I'm gonna probably take shoes, I'm gonna take some underwear, I'm gonna take some tampons, I'm gonna take some pills, some medication, you know, some hair products, some things, you know, dental, health, and so on. I will take a lot of shit. Not only the asphalt and the buildings and the institutions and the language and currency and paper money and blah, 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 blah. Okay? All right, so think about it. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.